So on today's Card Academy lesson, we're going to go over a very interesting variation of the Charlie Air Shuffle. Now, I've talked about this before in the stacked episode. So in the lesson that we talked about stacks, talked about this particular move, but I wanted to dedicate an entire lesson to it because it's a powerful move. And especially with the addition of this little, tactic nuance, this little addition, if you want to even call it that, that makes this pretty substantial in terms of making it seem like you are haphazardly cutting the deck. So look at the description below if you guys want to see all the links for things that I mentioned here. So first things first, you do need a little bit of a setup, which is turning the second card from the top face up. That's it. That's the only setup you're going to have for this particular move, and you're going to see why it's so important to do that in a few. Now, we're going to get into the mechanics of the Charlie Air Shuffle. This is something that I first saw done, I believe, in Royal Road to Card Magic and Expert Card Technique. I don't think they have an Expert Card Technique, but it's definitely Royal Road in the sense of giving the illusion that you are haphazardly cutting the deck and shuffling and mixing the cards and just giving it a shuffle that really seems like there's no control over any one card in particular. You could drop cards on the floor, and I did that on purpose. You could shuffle the cards and just make it look like the deck is a haphazard mess here. It's not one of these fancy cuts or shuffles that's you might see on Instagram, but it does get the job done in terms of having the spectator think that the deck is completely mixed and shuffled. Now, of course, in this scenario, we have actually come to a full circle where the deck is in the exact same order that it started. And the way we did that was with the use of the face-up card. Now, the face-up card becomes our key card because we know that that card started originally as the second card from the top of the deck. So let's get into the actual mechanics of the Charlie Air Shuffle now. First things first, you're going to spread some cards into your right hand. So you're going to use your left thumb to push off some cards into the right hand, just like this. Now, this is going to be a cycle. So you're going to cycle through these actions, and that's going to be the actual Charlie Air Shuffle itself. Now, you're going to come in, instead of coming in with more cards, you're going to come in with cards from the bottom of the deck. So right now, I've just come with some cards from the top, and I've cut those cards and had a nice little packet in my right hand. Now, I'm going to come in with the cards from the bottom and put those on top. So at speed, it just looks like this. And I've just grabbed a little bit of a chunk and placed those cards on top from the bottom. Now I'm going to repeat that, but this time I'm going to place cards from the top on the bottom here, just like this. And I'm going to repeat these two actions where I'm putting cards from the bottom on the top and from the top on the bottom, just like this, until I've exhausted the packet in my hands. And I could repeat this as many times as I want. I could do this as many times as I want because all this is doing is effectively giving the deck a single cut. So all that's taking place is that this is just window dressing, if you want to call it that, for just giving the deck one single cut. But as you can see, it looks like more is taking place. It looks like a haphazard mess is actually happening. But all that I'm doing is just taking cards from the top, putting it on the bottom, and cards from the bottom and putting it on top. Now, it does help if there's a little bit of a mixing here. So if the cards are staggered a little bit, if you place the cards in different positions. So this could go here, this could go here. It looks like the deck really has no way to be under any sort of control whatsoever. And I'm just repeating this action for as many times as I want. So if this is a stacked deck, of course, this is probably the best shuffle you could do just because it gives really the illusion that there isn't any sort of control on your end. Now, all you're doing, as I mentioned earlier, is the equivalent of giving the deck a single cut. If you break down your actions, really, all you're doing is giving the deck a single cut. And if you break it down, you're going to realize that fairly quickly. Now, how do we get back to a new deck position? How do we get back to that? So what we're going to do is that we're going to notice that there's a card that's face up in the deck. We're going to turn this card to a face down position. And all we have to do is just establish a break on the card above it. So remember, this was the original second card from the top of the deck. So all I have to do is just realize, say, whoops, this card is face up, or just, not necessarily draw attention to it, but just notice the card is face up. Turn it to a face down position, take one more card, and now this is where I establish my break. Now at this point, all I have to do is just cut this to the top, and I'm in the exact same position that I started even from all the Charlie Air Shuffles. Because again, all you've done is given the deck a single cut. If I turn the cards face up and face down, you're going to notice that what's taking place is that I'm just sandwiching the cards just like this. So right now there isn't any other action taking place other than the actions of a single cut. So if I were to place this back face down, it's the exact same situation as I was before without a single card having changed position. which is a wonderful position to be in, again, because it adds to the haphazard nature of the cut and the shuffle, and it looks more natural than doing a riffle shuffle and a waterfall, for example. If you were to do that, then establishes some sort of skill. If that's what you like to show as a performer, then that's on you. But if you want to show an element of chaos where there isn't any sort of control, this is definitely a wonderful method to use, because all we're doing is just taking advantage of the Charlie Air shuffle, taking advantage of the cyclical nature of the actual shuffle itself, and using the oops control, using technically the oops control, which is one of my favorite self-working controls. You have really can't go wrong with this one. And all you're doing is just turning the card second from the top face up, and that's it. Now, the attitude when you find that card is definitely going to depend on your performance style. Me personally, I wouldn't address it. I would just turn the card face to a face down position, and then do the cuts either in my hands or to the table, where I could rectify the situation and come back to the original position. Some people would like to call attention to it. I don't think that that's doing the move any bit of a service. And that includes on the oops control. I don't think you should mention it. Just saying oops and just turning that card over. People understand that sometimes cards could turn face up in the deck by accident, and it's a natural movement. So if that's something that you want to do, again, it's up to your performance style. But this is just a wonderful little way of having a false shuffle that's super simple, looks completely disarming, and gets the deck to new deck order without much effort on your end. So that is the Charlier shuffle combined with some elements of the oops control. Thank you guys for being members of the Pigcake Magic Academy, and I hope to see you on the next lesson.